started and hope that they remind themselves that they're supposed to be having brunch with us this morning and jump in. So just as housekeeping, I'm Arlene Allen. I'm the Executive Director of the Chamber. And at the end of this event, we're going to award some prizes for, you know, the coolest guest at your virtual table, or the cutest food or coffee cup if you're really good at making funny faces in your coffee with cream. This is the time to get the camera out and send those to Ryan, and he'll be telling you how. There'll also be a Zoom prize, which we used to call door prizes, but somehow that seems really inappropriate these days. So we have a drawing that we're doing with those of you who are here, and a gift certificate to all of our favorite bakery, Pan de More. So I'm very excited about that. We are recording this. Yes, we are. I'm seeing that now, looking at that, going, yes, we are recording this, and we will have the recording available after the event. After Lori's presentation, we're going to have time for some Q&A, but we'd like you to use the chat feature, and that is enabled, and it is at the bottom of your screen. So please feel free to use that chat, and I will be asking Lori questions from that chat when she's finished with her presentation. The ones we don't get to, time allowing, we'll send to Lori, and I know she's anxious to answer them afterward. We have some people here today from Congressman Kilmer's team, Evan Smith and Mary Jane Robbins. It's great to see them. From Team Chamber, Ryan Tippett and Ashlyn Brown, rarely seen but always heard these days, and a very special guest today, the Executive Director of the Northwest Region, Congressional and Public Affairs for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and the longest title I've ever seen on a business card, presider. Thank you for joining us today, all of you. This event has been on hold for such a long time. We have literally all aged in the process. This was scheduled to kick off the year in March. This weird little pandemic thing happened and sort of killed some of the March things that we had on the calendar. And we all had to learn to function in a new environment, and hopefully we'll make it through today and feel really good that we've done that. It's really exciting for us to get this program off the ground. It's been successful at so many other chambers across the country and other organizations. And women doing business and masterminds mentoring is truly a great fit for this very engaged entrepreneurial community. They were formed to encourage women to follow their dreams, to be able to mentor each other to success, to provide microloans for startups and for scholarships to business classes. The Masterminds group will provide not only mentorship, but monthly roundtable discussions. Even on Zoom, we can do that, and we will. So where we share ideas and information. And just to be fair, brave and very smart men who know a good thing when they see it, and there are a few of them here today, are always welcome at Women Doing Business. It is not just for chicks. With us today, we have Congressman Kilmer. Congressman Kilmer is a huge supporter of chambers and of our region, and fresh from yesterday's election. And there are several other candidates for office with us today as well. And I am only a few years away from having been an elected official, and sort of remember what this limbo is like when you go to bed thinking you could win and wake up in the morning either knowing or not knowing, and how long it's going to take. It's a crazy time. So thank you for breaking into that cycle and joining us today. And I am so grateful it's you and not me. I just majorly relieved. Um, Congressman, we always appreciate your insights and updates and the support you've demonstrated, not just for Chambers, but the community. So I want to thank you and your team for joining us today to kick off this really important program for this chamber. And Congressman, I'm going to cede you the floor.
Okay, well, thank you, Arlene. It's good to see everybody, and I'm grateful for the invitation to join this kickoff of Women Doing Business in Jefferson County. And with that introduction, I also feel like I should also say I'm also grateful to still be employed, so that's good. You know, I know from Arlene's comments that this was originally planned for March and would have been held in person. Candidly, I could really go for some human interaction right now. And in fact, as I looked at the Zoom, I think I want to be on a beach with Donna, which looked amazing. But, you know, unfortunately, this event, like a lot of things in our lives and in our livelihoods, have been put on hold as we work to navigate and respond to the challenges of this virus. But regardless, I'm happy to see that as we mask up and adhere to social distancing to get this pandemic under control, that all of you are working together to sustain your current businesses and to explore opportunities for growth and to figure out this landscape that we're all navigating. Before I say anything else, I want to say something that when I worked in economic development professionally, I always wanted public officials to say more to local employers, and that's just thank you. Thank you for doing business in Jefferson County. Thank you for contributing to the vitality of our economy. Thank you for employing people. It really matters. And I always want public servants to say that to those who are employing people in our community. You know, and I think it's a testament to the leadership of your community that you're launching this Women Doing Business initiative in our neck of on a diverse ecosystem of entrepreneurs and small businesses. And it's frankly well past time for us to dedicate a concerted effort to supporting women-owned businesses in our region. And I'm really psyched to see that that's happening in Jefferson County. I want to acknowledge that Chris from the U.S. Chamber is on, and I know they've made it a big priority also to embrace the importance of women-owned businesses, and have actually done a fair amount of research looking at the role that women-owned businesses play in our economy. We now have more than 12 million American companies that are women-owned businesses, which is about 42% of businesses in the U.S. They contribute nearly $2 trillion in revenue to our economy and employ roughly 9.5 million workers. So that's a big deal. Those are significant numbers, and honestly should be a source of pride and inspiration for all of us. Since coming to Congress, it's certainly been a priority of mine to support women who have the dream of opening a business, running their own business. It's why I was pleased that when Congress passed the CARES Act, it recognized the value of women's business center programs, dedicating some funding for education and training and advising to small businesses, to women-owned businesses. You know, and I think women's business centers are really an extraordinary resource that's provided through the SBA. And for those who are on this call and want to learn more about that, please don't hesitate to reach out to my office. We'd be more than happy to help facilitate any introduction if you aren't already connected to them. I also want to just mention, you know, part of as we navigate the current state of things, there's a whole bunch more that Congress needs to do to support local employers. There's discussion about that underway right now, looking at things like an employee retention tax credit to be able to hang on to workers and to cover the costs of doing that. There's discussion underway about another round of the Paycheck Protection Program. But I also want to acknowledge that some of it is investments in other things that are going to be vitally important to recovering our economy. So for example, I've talked to a whole lot of employers who've said our ability to, you know, turn the dial on reopening is going to be stymied if we don't have some solutions related to childcare, so that working families with children, are able to return to work. Just last week, Congress passed two bills in that regard. One was a bill called the Child Care is Essential Act. I'm a co-sponsor of that bill, which provided about $50 billion to providing grant funding for child care providers in hopes of stabilizing the child care sector, and supporting providers so that they can safely reopen and operate. That's not just important to our kids. That's not just important to workers. In my view, it's important to economic development, because in the absence of a solution on childcare, it's going to be really tough to see us really turn the dial on reopening. We also passed a bill called the Child Care for Economic Recovery Act, which provides some additional federal investments and tax subsidies to help bring quality childcare within the reach of families to support ongoing employment. Some of that's targeted at the child care providers. Some of it's targeted at working families so that they can afford quality child care. So these are two big, important pieces of legislation that can help ensure that working women and parents with children have the support that they need, both during this pandemic and also into the future. And I'm hopeful that we'll see some action in the Senate in that regard. These are tough times as we grapple with the economic fallout from an unprecedented global pandemic. And it's particularly tough to open and manage a small business. And I know that even more needs to be done to support the work that you're doing. And please know I'll continue to fight for more financial assistance as Congress negotiates this next package. I do want to say, and I don't want to talk too long, so maybe I'll say this in closing. Fortunately, chambers of commerce around the country are really on the front line trying to provide help in communities during this pandemic. And Arlene, I really tip my hat to you and to the chamber for really stepping up and providing that support, whether it's opening the doors to the virtual cafe meetings to everyone, not just chamber members in the community, disseminating information to help businesses navigate what has been a really tough time, and to be able to weather any setbacks. I know that the programs that Arlene and the chamber are planning to support women doing business in the community will also serve really as essential resources for the community in the weeks and months to come. So I want to thank you, Arlene, and the chamber, and I also want to thank each of you who are chamber members who support the important work that they're doing. And I understand you have a great program coming up, and I really shouldn't take up any more of your time, but I just want to add that I thank you for all the work you're doing to keep our economy moving. If I or my team can ever lend a hand, we work for you. That's how this works. So please don't hesitate to get in touch with our office. We always work to have the backs of our local employers, and we're eager to keep doing that. And as always, I'm proud to represent you. So thanks.
Well, thank you, Congressman Kilmer. And as Jan put into the chat, we're glad you are employed too. And now I want to give the floor to Chris Eiler from the U.S. Chamber. Chris?
Thank you. As Arlene said, my name is Chris Eiler. I'm the U.S. Chamber's Executive Director for the Northwest region. And I'm here on behalf of the U.S. Chamber to give a recognition to Congressman Kilmer for all of his great work in D.C., particularly working with us. But before I give him that recognition, I just want to thank Arlene and the Jefferson County Chamber, not just for giving me some time today, but for everything that you have done to assist us over the past 5 months. This whole crisis has really illustrated to us the tremendous reliance we have on our local chamber partners, not just in terms of helping us communicate all of the programs that are out there that the federal government has put forward to help businesses during this crisis, but to better inform our advocacy efforts in DC. I am on a call every week with Arlene and her colleagues at all the local chambers across Washington State, getting feedback on how these programs have worked. And I'm sure you all are well aware nothing's gone smoothly, but we have been able to help find better solutions and work more closely with Congressman Kilmer and his colleagues to make these programs work better, directly because we get feedback from Arlene and her colleagues at local chambers. So I just want to thank you for all of that help. It really has been a tremendous assistance in guiding our advocacy efforts. So as I said, I'm here to give a special recognition to Congressman Kilmer in recognition of his work in DC. Every year, the U.S. Chamber awards the Spirit of Enterprise Award to members of Congress who score highly on our legislative scorecard. And this past year, we made some changes to that scorecard for the first time in 40 years. Traditionally, we simply track how members of Congress vote on bills that get brought up that impact the business community. We made some changes to that in an effort to help encourage more cooperation and bipartisanship in Washington, D.C. And in addition to scoring them on their votes, we score them on their bipartisanship, how much they reach across the aisle to co-sponsor legislation from the other party, and also on their leadership, how frequently they co-sponsor legislation supported by the business community, irrespective of what party member introduces that legislation. And I'm happy to say that on all three measures, Congressman Kilmer scored very high. On bipartisanship, he scored an 89%. That is the 26th highest score of all House Democrats. And on leadership, he also scored an 89%, which is the highest leadership score of any member of Congress in Washington State. In total, his total score was 71%, which is no surprise to us, and I know it's no surprise to you. Throughout his career, he has been someone who has gone to Olympia, has gone to Washington, D.C., with the sole purposes of finding solutions and working across the aisle with all of his colleagues. So with that, Mr. Kilmer, it's my pleasure on behalf of the U.S. Chamber to virtually present you with the U.S. Chamber's Spirit of Enterprise Award. I hope that next year we will be able to do this again in person, and I won't have to do this from my dining room here in Seattle. But again, thank you for all that you do to work with us, to work with your colleagues on both sides of the aisle, and we will look forward to having many productive working relationships moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. This is my first virtual award. Thanks, everyone.
Virtual applause.
Thank you.
Thank you both, and thank you, and thank all of you for being here. I'm going to introduce very briefly, unmute yourself, Ryan Tippett from the Chamber, to tell you where to send those photos of the food and coffee that are in front of you and your four-footed friends who are joining you and we can't see. Ryan.
Hey, good morning, everyone. You can send your photos to communications@jeffcountychamber.org, and I'll also put that email down in the chat.
And we're going to be awarding some gift certificates at the end of this event, along with that Zoomy Door Prize thing. So, but you do have to be here along with that four-footed friend and show us that empty coffee cup to win. I am really happy to have Lori with us today. We booked Lori to speak in March, and she's really busy. And when we finally came back with the date for this, we were concerned that we were going to lose someone that we didn't want to lose as our speaker. Lori called the chamber one day and said, I want to be a member. So we said, well, why don't you come in and talk to us? And she did. And we were so impressed with her background and experience. And the fact that she started working for McDonald's a few years ago. She was only like one, I think, when she started like 35 years ago, flipping burgers. And in a short period of time, she owned a franchise, not the usual trajectory for women in that arena, and owned a major franchise and sold it and bought something else. And now is the managing member of Eagle Pipe and Mechanical, which is an HVAC contractor that specializes in commercial gas pipe, a direct link to McDonald's, I'm sure. And that is now going by the DBA Eagle Pipe Heating and Air, and they're a preferred contractor with two major utility companies in Washington State. She had a $10 million franchise in 2011. And in 2012, she started 2 Pandora jewelry stores. And now, since May of last year, she is focusing full-time here on developing Eagle Pipe Heating and Air. But that's not all she does. In fact, that whole business thing is just a little bit of what she does. She is heavily engaged in community and in charity, and a supporter of Ronald McDonald House Charities in New York and Washington. She's ambassador for women in the HVAC organization and provides regional outreach to educational groups and facilities interested in promoting careers in HVAC, specifically bringing women into trades. And she was the recipient of the Women of Influence Award from the New York Business Journal in 2010. And we are delighted to have Lori as a now founding member of the Chamber's Women in Business and Masterminds program, and look forward to continuing to work with her while she serves as a mentor. And so, Lori, unmute yourself and share that journey with us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So thanks to the Jefferson County Chamber of Commerce, and congratulations, Congressman Kilmer. Thank you for your leadership. Arlene, I think you just gave my entire presentation, which is awesome, but let me kind of fill in the blanks a little bit. I want to welcome all the ladies and the brave gentlemen on this call that are in business and they're having lunch. So thank you so much for joining me. I've scripted it a little bit because this is such a small slice of what I have gone through over, a pretty long lifetime at this point. And I wanted to make sure I can talk for hours and I'm not getting off topic. But I wanted to start off with explaining the burgers to bangles to pipes plan on life experiences with business. So how did I come up with that?
I'm having some technical difficulties. Give me just a quick second here.
Oh, technical difficulties. So we're all used to Zoom, so this is what happens here. I think she's trying to pull up a couple slides here. It'll just be a second. But what I wanted to do is really kind of talk about not only some of my life experiences, but also kind of give some key messages, especially to women in business. Are we good to go here?
Our monitor got messed up. Hang on.
Okay.
And then thank you guys for bearing with us.
This is my amazing assistant, Alicia, who helps me through everything. Okay.
All right. Can you see that?
All right. Are we okay, Arlene? Can you see?
You are perfect.
Okay. All right. So as I continue.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my key messages, if you understand and have been trained in business, you really can lead any business. And I'd like to emphasize during the next 20 minutes or so, a couple key points that are geared towards confidence, perseverance, and empowerment. It's kind of interesting. As I reach back, my story started about a 5-year-old girl who was getting ready to graduate from kindergarten. And these pictures are hysterical, especially if you look to the right and see, there's me at 5. But at the end of the year, the report card came home and recommended that this young girl needed to develop self-confidence, encouragement, and self-assurance. So this teacher at that time was very perceptive. And little did that teacher and her parents realize how accurate that assessment was. So I was fortunate. My parents followed those recommendations. In fact, to this day, my father would say, I think we gave her too much confidence. But what it did, it set the environment for this young girl to go and build a $10 million company. Oh, that's one of our other members of the team. We'll shoot you a picture of this one here. So the story begins, and I want to start out with the burgers. Arlene kind of alluded to the McDonald's story, but my junior year in high school, I had spent the summer visiting my grandparents in Washington State. At the time, I had lived in the Midwest and loved coming to the Seattle area, and it was my grandfather that encouraged me and helped to develop my love of the great outdoors. So my grandfather had climbed Mount Rainier when he was 62, and I summited when I was 15. And when I think about perseverance, it comes to mind when I think back to that climb. I don't know how many have had that route in terms of the gorgeous mountains here in Washington, but it was a tough one at that age. And my attitude of mind over matter would get me through the 2 exhausting days and the cold conditions. But what I remembered the most was that I had accomplished my goal and the beauty of the experience. That same summer, a friend of mine said she could get me a job at the local McDonald's when I returned to Wisconsin. I started as a crew member at my local McDonald's that Labor Day and never would have thought that 35 years later, I would still be with that brand. So I actively moved through many roles within the McDonald's Corporation. What were the things that prepared me for not only business, but life? And this is just kind of a sampling of what the training and the development from the leadership, teamwork, customer service, financial diversity, training and development of people is huge. The processes and the procedures that we work through, and the ending goal was trying to accomplish things. So it's a small list, but when jobs train young employees and give them career opportunities, they also gave us the ability to become franchisees and create companies. So McDonald's has a training and development system that is recognized throughout the world. And it took years for me to continue to educate people that I just wasn't a burger flipper. When I started as a crew member, I took roles within the organization from the very start. Anytime a new program was introduced in the restaurant, I volunteered and I said, I'll do it. I'll find a way to do it. And I have found throughout my career, I was able to take on challenging roles and responsibilities that allowed me to move quickly through the corporation. And I had enough confidence and took on self-development, and I would also reach out for help when I needed it. With this, I had learned quickly the roles and responsibilities of all the different areas of business. I stayed in McDonald's operations since my passion was customers and employees. And I loved to learn from all the specialty departments, the marketing department, construction, real estate, financial, training, and human resources. This gave me the confidence and the empowerment to move forward in every area of business. I stayed in McDonald's operations because of the fast pace and also being able to take individuals that were not always your top student or athlete, but with training and cooperation, we could develop a very cohesive team. The synergy of that team led by the managers was critical to the success in every McDonald's. This is no different in business today. Plumbing, customer service, HVAC. Once you have a process for everything you do and set up a step-by-step procedure, you can replicate and grow your business. One of the exciting roles that I took on at McDonald's was the store manager's position. Who runs a $2 million business without an office staff, or back in the day, we didn't even have a fax machine. The managers were very self-sufficient, but we also had so many resources available. Here's what I learned, and I was able to take all this information through all aspects of running a small business. Training was so very valuable and occurred frequently. The most challenging and interesting was training at Hamburger University, where you could receive a degree in hamburgerology. Yes, there really is a Hamburger University, and it has been set up globally in 8 different countries around the world with over 275,000 graduates. And here again, students can earn about up to 23 credits towards an associate or bachelor's degree at over 1,600 US colleges and universities. What is it about McDonald's that it has enabled that company to produce more millionaires from within its ranks than any company in history? So everybody wants to know the secret. The secret is McDonald's has a results-driven culture. Talent is cultivated, encouraged, and they thrive from the individual restaurants to the corner office. When I had proven myself competent to move up to the next level, I became a supervisor. Up to that time, I relied on myself to achieve results, and I was really good at it. Now, this was a whole new ballgame, and I will confess, I was not very good at always getting my team motivated for results. I had a more demanding, take action, why can't you accomplish this task attitude. I learned how to change my management style. I would volunteer for training for any of the up and coming managers. We would do a lot of women training and development, whether it was for franchisees or women within the company, Special Olympics, and Ronald McDonald House Charities, which is very close to my heart. This all added to my value as a corporate employee, and most importantly, gave me a sense of purpose. I had a long list of corporate jobs, and they all provided me with the opportunity to experience the world. A couple of projects gave me the opportunity to work with the Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle. We would look at setting up food service in various areas of the zoo. And this gave me the opportunity to understand how real estate and construction worked. Environment and nutrition became the next adventure for me. I needed specialized training for presentations, PR appearances, and as a spokesperson for McDonald's, I had the pleasure of radio and TV interviews, whether it was in Seattle or in New York. My job, in addition to being a business consultant, was to deliver the messages of how the company was working on being environmentally friendly and having healthy food. I worked with one of our franchisees to develop a program for a recycled McDonald's restaurant. This one on the screen, it's actually in Kent, Washington. So we took a brand new building and looked to ensure all the building and interiors were made out of the highest content of recycled products. I was fortunate to even have a copper roof donated. I used interns from the University of Washington to help research and provide information to help our construction staff. I thought, well, why did you have to do this? We had an entire corporation. Well, guess what? There was no budget for this. So this was me moving outside my box saying, I've got a job to do and I want to go ahead and move forward. And this was an important part for us to work through. But all this extra work paid off. And when we were featured on World News, that was pretty exciting. This resulted in my next promotion. I became a field service manager. So I now was a department head that sat with top management. My area was Alaska, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon. And I would travel with my team of consultants to various cities and states. And we would go out and we would help the franchised restaurants, whatever they needed help with. These were exciting times as my career was taking off, and I had multiple offers to work in Chicago at world headquarters, but I never wanted to leave Washington State. So at the time, I took a lateral move and became an operations manager. I would oversee corporate restaurants, and my role was to develop my team of supervisors and run very profitable restaurants. So about this time, I was headed out for a sabbatical. This is a great picture of McDonald's Corporation. They would give us 8 weeks of paid sabbatical every 10 years, and you would also have 4 weeks vacation. And the purpose behind this was really an opportunity to step back and reevaluate your long-term career. I took 10 weeks and spent my time in Egypt, was diving the Red Sea and exploring the country. And then I headed off to Africa, and I was fortunate enough to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I decided upon my return that I would like to become a franchisee and make money for me instead of everyone else. I discovered it was very difficult to go from a corporate employee to a franchisee. When you're really good at what you do, my boss would not let me go until he no longer needed me in that position. I traveled to look at various McDonald's in 4 other states, and finally an opportunity came up. My general manager said, you should take that package, which would be the purchase of this restaurant. So I drove out to Brewster, Washington. I took a look around, and when I returned, I said to my boss, thanks, but I really want a larger market. My boss's response was, I could buy that location, or I could be off of his G&A as of April 15th. This was in 1997. So in other words, if I didn't take that location, I'd be out of a job. That started my franchise career. I had to sum up the courage to sell my home, move to the other side of the state, and open up this business in 60 days. It was brand new. They had just decided to close it for the winter, and we had 60 days to get this brand new business open. I had to hire a new staff and train over an hour away in Omak, Washington. With no management team, I took my 3 best crew members and said, guess what? You're now promoted to shift managers. Let's go. I worked open to close for weeks so I could leave my business with capable people. Sometimes you go with your best people and they will rise to the challenge. I had been working for years in a corporate environment. Now it was time to make more of a life and community. So I joined the chamber. I became the president after a few years, joined the Kiwanis, volunteered to help with the community. Anything that would come up, I would also volunteer, because I, again, was out in the middle of Brewster, Washington by myself with my business. So after 3 years, I decided it was time for a larger opportunity. And I started working on how to sell my one restaurant. I wasn't receiving help from the company, since who would want one small restaurant in the middle of nowhere? So I had to get busy and find my own buyer. I was looking for opportunities, and I had 2 potential deals to decide on: Fairbanks, Alaska, or Buffalo, New York. I finally sold my Brewster McDonald's, and I was able to purchase the start of 6 locations in New York. I decided I did not want to be a partner with the company, and I chose New York over Alaska so I could have 100% ownership. So talk about diversity. I had just purchased a travel plaza built over the New York State Thruway. I-90 ran below, east and westbound, with long walkways running to the center of where McDonald's restaurant and various business were located. Very similar to if you go to Chicago and you can see those oases that are built over the freeway. This was the location I wanted, but the deal here again was that I would have to purchase the first 4 businesses as a package. 2 were urban stores in the toughest parts of New York State's 2nd largest city. 1 was brand new with no track record by the football stadium where the Buffalo Bills played. I determined that after 20 years of being in the business and looking at restaurants, these were the worst I had ever seen, which in turn made them affordable. So at a $3 million price tag, thank you, McDonald's, and thank you, Bank of America, for allowing me to be able to afford the $3 million. I started working my plan and purchased the first location in September, and this would have been in September of 2000. The next 3 locations came pretty quickly over the next 8 weeks. I started training and developing a team. And what is the #1 thing that Buffalo is known for? The weather. And of course, buffalo wings. So November 20th of 2000, I had just acquired all 4 businesses, and the worst storm hits. Shut us down for days. Businesses were closed, city was evacuated, money had to be spent for snow removal, lost wages, and the spoiled product was mounting. Now I was the income producer. I had a $43,000 note to pay the bank every month. So what do? You pick up, you persevere, and you say, let's go. I've got to make this work. So my time in Buffalo was probably the best and also the worst experiences I had ever had. This was a time for assertion and fighting for my business every day. I was dealing with theft, counterfeit money, lawsuits, and audits by just about every government agency out there. I had 2 of the restaurants, they were in empowerment zones. And there were many days I felt like I was going into the war zone with gang violence, robberies, and unbelievable things on a daily basis. The question for these 2 locations was not, will I be robbed today? It actually was, what time will I be robbed today, and how can I prepare for it? We did it all. We had cameras, we had security bars on the drive-through windows, we did drop safes, armored car. I had to adapt to an environment that I was very unfamiliar with. And I learned a valuable lesson to carry a lot of insurance. I had 1 restaurant start on fire in July of 2001. And it wasn't a grease fire, but a dryer fire. This was in an empowerment zone where the staff was too poor to be able to go out and even do laundry. So we allowed them to do their uniforms within the restaurant. The dryer had caught on fire and it burned down the stockroom. This restaurant, fortunately enough, was already permitted for a rebuild with a total tear down after Labor Day, and that was in July. So we moved quickly from July to past Labor Day and on to November, where we opened up a brand new restaurant in this empowered community. And that was quite a feat to be able to do that. So to wrap up the burgers portion, my travel plaza grew from 2.8 million in sales to over 7 million. One of my passions is travel, and I have been to all 7 continents and over 146 countries. And I say yet because I still have more to see. I was fortunate enough to use this opportunity to work with an international program to hire J-1 visa college students to work for me during my busiest time. This allowed me to travel the world and combine my business with fun and adventure. My $3 million loan was paid off in 7 years, but it took me 11 years from start to finish to sell all the restaurants. And in 2008, I purchased my dream home in Port Ludlow. And I had to spend close to 3 years. I commuted once a month to come out until I could find the right buyer for my business. So in 2011, I concluded the deal, packed up and left New York. Here again, talk about confidence. I had no idea what I was going to do. Retire, jump back into business. I took about 7 months, traveled the world, and I decided to jump back into business. And now this is where the Bangles story begins. So I'd seen Pandora jewelry stores in the airport in Las Vegas, and I found out that they had franchised and thought, wow, this might be a way to fuel my jewelry passion and have a business. So I jumped in both feet, applied for a franchise, and the next thing I knew, my application was accepted, and I was on a flight to Baltimore to interview. Pandora had just signed with Ben Bridge and had given them the Washington market. Who was I to compete with Ben Bridge? And Ben Bridge is owned by Warren Buffett. And I actually said to the franchising director, really, Warren Buffett or me? So of course, I ended up opening 2 Pandora concept stores in Boise, Idaho, and just outside Salt Lake City, Utah. So once again, I had to get up and start running. Brand new construction, new sales teams, brand new managers, and just in general doing business in 2 new states. But what helped me through all of this was all my previous business experience. Everything kicked in. I had just come from the best franchising company in the world to an organization that was just really starting to build in North America and having corporate offices in Denmark. And I will admit, I struggled for the 5 to 7 years that I had both locations. I mean, it was beautiful, high quality products, but the inventory would absolutely kill me. So much cash looking beautiful versus investing, or hey, how about just keeping sitting in the bank? When Pandora launched their online sales, many of the franchisees took a large hit, and we struggled with the promotions and the giveaways that we had to participate in. They were a great wholesale company, but not effective as a real retail company. So while I was actively running Pandora in the 2 states, I set up the structure for Eagle Pipe and Mechanical in 2014. I never really pursued it until the fall of 2015. And a lot of the reasons were because my brother has been in the industry for over 40 years. He's a craftsman at what he does. He just wants to work and make the customer happy. So with my business background, this is how the pipe story begins. So I'm now committed to working full-time on this amazing and interesting business of HVACR, heating, venting, air conditioning, refrigeration. I have my challenges because I have a lot of efficiencies that I need to learn, and I continue to learn from the best in the industry. We are set up to service all heating and air conditioning, from service, tune-ups and replacements. We're doing some light commercial, rooftops, maintenance contracts. Gas piping is a specialty on the commercial side, and as preferred providers for Puget Sound Energy and Cascade Natural Gas. We perform work also on the residential side, from gas tie-ins to running flex gas pipe to your brand new stove. So my goal here is, of course, to develop another $10 million company. And the reason why I look at my past and I feel confident and empowered to develop that size of an organization, again, change and flexibility has always been really important. So when COVID-19 hit, we had to take some dramatic steps for health, safety, and job security. I spent countless hours applying for funds, and I just didn't rely on my local bank. I was able to secure funds in the first round in April, and I'm currently working on the process of the forgiveness phase for the PPE. We kept staff working, and when the funding came through, we upped our game on training. We looked at the EIDL grants, the Jefferson County grants. If there was a grant out there, I was applying. And we were fortunate, being essential workers, to keep moving forward. We added virtual assistants to our service calls. This way we could do contactless diagnostic. We didn't have to accept just, check or credit card. Everything could be done without having to contact the customer. And that was huge. Full PPE. And at the same time, we started thinking, what can we do to help? So we dove into IAQ, which is indoor air quality, to help our customers, especially we have a lot with compromised immune systems. Most recently, we're using an app. It's called CertiClear. It's a health check form that all employees need to fill out before they can go to work, go to the offices, or step into their company vehicles. It is something that we all do on a regular basis. So in closing, I just wanted to share with you a few experiences that I have gone through. And I just wanted to make sure that you understood that confidence, perseverance, and empowerment were the three things that really kept me moving forward. A vision of success in my business and how to pick yourself up and keep going when things get tough. I really appreciate you for listening, and I hope you found some interesting takeaways to help in business and in life. And again, here's all my contact information, so feel free to reach out at any point. I have mentored women in every phase of business, and just want to put that out there and let you know that I would be more than happy to help anyone that needs it. Thank you so much for the time today.
Oh, Lori, thank you so much for sharing all that. It is a fabulous story. And it's a story that is mirrored by women all over the country in different ways, going down different paths, but achieving major success. And women here can do exactly the same thing. And all they have to do is follow their passion and their instincts. And there's so many great ideas here. It is so exciting to be part of this community. So I have a couple of questions that we've been asked, and I'm going to answer one of them because we're going to start next month with the Masterminds Mentoring Roundtable, and we'll be doing that on Zoom, and I'm going to try to convince Lori to do that. I'm going to ask Alicia to unshare your screen so we can kind of move forward with that. Thank you. And then I have two more introductions for some exciting announcements from the Chamber of Jefferson County. We have with us Karen Best, the owner of Coldwell Banker Best Homes, Port Townsend and Port Ludlow, president of the Chamber Board of Directors, and Richard Tucker, the executive director of Jefferson Land Trust, who is president-elect for the Chamber of Jefferson County Board of Directors. And Karen and Richard, unmute yourselves. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Arlene. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Representative Kilmer. We appreciate you all being here. Really an exciting inaugural Women Doing Business event. So thank you all very much. I wanted to share another exciting event coming up, and that is our Community Leadership Awards. This is an event that has happened every year for many, many years. And we had to postpone our regularly scheduled leadership event. And so we are proud to announce that we are going to do our first ever virtual Leadership Awards event, October 4th. And this event will be honoring leaders actually that were chosen last year, but they've been secured in a vault waiting to be announced, which we will do October 4th. We are projecting 4 p.m. as our gathering time. We will be honoring the Business Leader of the Year, Citizen of the Year, Rising Entrepreneur, Young Professional of the Year, and Future Business Leader. So we are truly looking forward to that event. We will be sending out announcements for how to get tickets. And more importantly, we want to announce that we have partnered with the leader in this event. And we're so happy that Donna has graciously agreed to lend their support to this event and to help us both with offering sponsorship packages and also with then an insert into honoring our recipients. So Donna Etchie with the Port Townsend Jefferson County leader, do you want to just say a couple of words about the program available?
Sure, thanks Karen. And thank you, Lori. That was very inspiring. It was very exciting to hear about your journey. Thank you for sharing that with us. But so the first thing, Karen pretty much said it all, that we are selling sponsorships for this virtual event. If it was in person, it would be a different kind of sponsorships. But I think Arlene, along with myself and Karen, put together a good package as far as what you get for a sponsorship. So as we're moving forward over the next couple of months, preparing for the event, we're going to be promoting it. So the sooner that you can get in and get your sponsorship, the more publicity that you'll get throughout the different sponsorship programs. And I think, Arlene, I have it finalized, so I can send it to you this morning right after this for you to finalize it and then get it sent out to the chamber so that everyone can see the different levels. The one thing that Karen didn't say is that this is, in years past, I think maybe it was like a fundraiser in a sense for the chamber. And at this point, the chamber just would like to be able to break even, make maybe a little bit of money. So with that, we are giving part of the proceeds back to the chamber for the sponsorship. So it's going to be a partnership as putting together the section that's going to, I think it's going to talk a little bit about the nominees, but more so the winners that will be announced on June 3rd, and the publication will come out on October 7th. Is that correct? Are those dates correct, Arlene?
Yeah, the event itself is Saturday, October 3rd, and sure. The leader has a great insert that they're putting together for this, and we are very excited and know that it is going to be a collector's item.
Yeah. So look, so I would just suggest that you take a look in your email either today or tomorrow morning. Arlene will be sending out that sponsorship package, and like I said, she's put together a very nice sponsorship, not just an ad in the section, but also different promotions what Arlene's got planned on sending out. So I'm very excited to be part of the leadership, and I'm very excited to be part of the chamber.
And we are thrilled to have you and to have you as a partner.
Thank you.
And as Karen mentioned, I'm Richard Tucker. I'm the president-elect of the Chamber Board. I am really excited to be on the Chamber Board. I feel strongly in strengthening our business community in Jefferson County. And I'm really pleased that we are moving forward with the Leadership Awards. I think at this time, we all look for leaders in our local community, even more now than ever. And I always love the fact that we recognize not just people who have established themselves as leaders, but also the up and coming future leaders in the community, especially in the business community. I have stepped up and I am a sponsor for the Leadership Awards. I'm really pleased to be able to do that personally. And I invite each and every one of you to do the same. I think it's important to recognize who these leaders are and to give them their moment in the sun. So.
Oh, thank you, Richard. Yeah, I think there's so much talk about leadership right now that our April postponement to October seems like the time is perfect. It's just never been more perfect for that. And I know we now have some awards to present. Karen.
Well, let's see. We are going to do the, we're doing the which one first?
Award
Brunch
first,
winner.
I think.
Right. All right. So drum roll, please. All right. Is Taylor Webster.
No, that is, oh, well, we can give that award away, but that is not the Brunch Award. That's the big Zoom prize.
I messed up.
Taylor, but now Taylor knows. You see the person smiling the broadest in this row here. Who's got the biggest smile? That would be Taylor.
Thank you.
This is my mistake. I am so sorry. I'm reading my text and email both. So I see what we're doing. You sent me this beautiful picture of someone's brunch.
That is not Taylor's. That brunch,
I'm gonna let you.
That brunch, who I envy someone, and that someone is Maria Drury, who had a fabulous breakfast. Is she still on the call?
I am. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So you get a lovely gift certificate to something someone else made for you to eat.
Oh, lovely.
And that will be way more fun.
Oh, yes.
And then we have a 4-footed brunch guest.
Ah,
yeah.
We do, and that is Canine. Oh, that's the Canine Friendly Gift Certificate. I'm struggling here, Arlene. I apologize to everyone for this. It's Lori's brunch friend. Right?
Aww. Well, luckily it's a special little gift certificate that's canine friendly. So we're delighted that it was actually a canine and not a kitty, which we were a little nervous about the biscuit. So we're glad that worked out so perfectly. Thank you for having him join us. And Taylor, you won a gift certificate from Penny Dumore, and that was our door prize. And we are, first of all, really happy that you're able to join us today. I'm thrilled that you get to take this away with you. So thank you, Karen and Richard. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Chris, for all that you do and all the support that the U.S. Chamber provides, not only to us, but to chambers not only throughout Washington, but throughout the country. So I have been studying and going to school with the U.S. Chamber for a long time and earned their IOM certification and still go back and take their classes and their seminars because they are always relevant and on target. And so we are always grateful for the work you do and the lobbying that you do on behalf of chambers and small business. I want to thank you all for joining us and invite you Friday to, yes, it is another Chamber Cafe. And we've got a panel of business owners who are going to be discussing right now, right here in Jefferson County, what's working and what's not, and how staying in phase 2 is affecting their business, because they all thought, as did we, that we would have moved on by now, and then things change. So they'll be sharing how they're thinking they may get through the winter this year. and to thrive at the end of that and be moving in an upward trajectory, not just surviving the winter. So we want to hear what they have to say. It is free to attend. You don't have to be a member of any organization to join us, but you do need to register for Zoom, and that's for security. So please remember, Chamber Cafe is 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock Friday morning this week. We thank you for joining us today and supporting women and small business. Have a great rest of the week, and most importantly, stay healthy. Bye, guys.